Hello and welcome to this week's Kids Book Club. Today we will be reading from Encyclopedia Brown, Boy Detective again. And let's just go over what we read from last week. So last week we read the chapter The Case of the Scattered Cards. And it was about a boy named Clarence who had his tent stolen by the Tiger Gang. So it didn't tell us how Encyclopedia solved the case. The ending of the chapter was just Encyclopedia Brown telling the Tigers that he knew they were lying, and the Tigers gave Clarence his tent back. So it says, turn the page to 103 for the solution to the case of the scattered cards. So let me find page 103. And I didn't get any guesses from you guys, so I will just read to you how Encyclopedia solved the case, and if you did have guesses, you can see if you were right. So, solution to the case of the scattered cards. Bugs Meany said that Clarence had stolen the tent from the Tigers' clubhouse this morning. That is, on the second day of the rain. Therefore, the ground under the tent should have been wet. But when Encyclopedia scattered the cards with his foot, he discovered that the ground inside the tent was dry. This proved that the tent had been put up before the rain, as Clarence claimed, and not during the rain this morning, as Bugs said. Encyclopedia Brown is very clever. So let us move on to today's chapter. So this chapter is actually going to be the same. So while I am reading it, or if you're reading along with me, try to pick up clues to solve the case. And then next week we will talk about how the case was solved. Okay. Today's chapter is The Case of the Civil War Sword. A boy with red hair stopped in the doorway of the Brown Detective Agency. "Are you any good at swords?" he asked. Encyclopedia did not lift his eyes from his book, How to Build a Nuclear Reactor. "What kind of game is swords?" he asked. "It isn't a game," said the red-haired boy. "My name is Peter Clinton. I want to hire you." Peter put 2 dimes and a nickel on the gasoline can beside Encyclopedia. The coins clanked. Encyclopedia stopped reading. He looked up, very businesslike. "How can I help you?" he asked. "I have a chance to trade my bicycle for a sword," said Peter, "and I want to make sure the sword is real." "You don't think the sword is really a sword?" said Encyclopedia. "What do you think it is?" "That isn't what I mean," Peter said. "It's a sword from the Civil War. There are thousands of swords left over from the Civil War," said Encyclopedia. "I know," said Peter, "but how many belonged to General Jackson?" "Stonewall Jackson?" gasped Encyclopedia. "The great Southern general?" This sword is supposed to have belonged to Stonewall Jackson, said Peter. Bugs Meany says so. Bugs? Encyclopedia straightened up at the name. You want me to make sure the sword really did belong to Stonewall Jackson? Yes, said Peter. Then you'll take the case? I'll take it, said Encyclopedia. If Bugs is behind the trade, you'll need help. Peter led the private detective to the Tiger's clubhouse, an unused tool shed behind Mr. Sweeney's auto body shop. The Tigers were busy racing garter snakes. Bugs made a face when he saw Encyclopedia. So, Mr. Brains is now a Civil War know-it-all, said the Tigers' leader. Well, well. Maybe you can tell me what Stonewall Jackson did at the Battle of Bull Run. Which battle at Bull Run? Asked Encyclopedia. There were two. One in 1861 and the other in 1862. Good for you, said Bugs, grinning. Now, don't say this sword isn't real. Encyclopedia walked to the table on which the sword lay. Bugs said, This sword was given to Stonewall Jackson a month after the first Battle of Bull Run. If that's true, Peter whispered to Encyclopedia, the sword is worth $10 like mine. 20, corrected Encyclopedia. Read what it says on the blade, said Bugs. Encyclopedia read. To Thomas J. Jackson, for standing like a stone wall at the first Battle of Bull Run, on July 21st, 1861. This sword is presented to him by his men on August 21st, 1861. The sword certainly has seen a lot of use, said Encyclopedia. Did you expect it to look new and shiny? Sneered Bugs. It's more than 100 years old. But it doesn't look like it ever was worth $5, Encyclopedia said. Never mind how it looks, said Peter. Do you think it belonged to General Jackson? Before Encyclopedia could answer, Bugs spoke up. I sure hate to part with the sword, he said, but Peter wants it so much, I just had to say I'd trade for his bike. Trade? You won't trade with Peter, said Encyclopedia. The sword never belonged to Stonewall Jackson. So how do you think Encyclopedia knows that the sword isn't real? If you have any guesses, leave them in the comments below, or you can email us or message us on Facebook or on Instagram. If you are enjoying this story so far, feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to click the little bell for notifications. And we will solve the case of the sword next week in our new video. We'll see you then.